Shalom, shalom. You're watching Hebrew Bible Secrets with Rabbi Simon Altaf Cohen and Rabbi Jeremy Beaton. And our program today, we hope to enlighten our views around us of certain information which will help for you to formulate your choices and opinions based on the Hebrew Bible. And so I'm going to pass it to Rabbi Jeremiah and see if he has anything to say.
Thank you, Hakoin, for being here with us today and taking time out from America to be with us.
Thank you.
Now, I just want to ask you something. With what's going on around the world, with ISIS and everything that's going on in Paris, is there anywhere in the Bible or the Torah or the Tanakh that talks about these things that we can look to and read about?
Well, first of all, I would say yes, the Torah speaks about it, but I think we need to give the viewers a little bit update as to who we are, why we are here. And it's important to know that we are Jews. We believe in the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, and we believe in the God of Israel. And also, I think that it is important to understand that the God of Israel gave a responsibility to the chosen people. The responsibility was not to hide in our synagogues and, hide our Bibles and not let anybody ever see anything what we do in our private lives. But the idea that God gave us the Torah and the Tanakh was that we are to light unto the nations. We are to guide the nations on what's going on and what's going to happen and how to serve God. So my purpose to come here from North America is exactly that. We are not going to hide our lanterns under our beds and pretend that we don't have the truth, or we don't want to give it to the other people because they are Gentiles. We don't have that kind of hatred. We don't behave like that. We want to give a message of love of the God of Israel to all the peoples. So here we are with that view in mind. So what's going on around the world today? We had several attacks in France, in Paris.
Yes.
A number of attacks. We had attacks in Belgium with ISIS. These are the kind of things that I wrote about 10 years ago in my book, World War III, Unmasking the End Times Beast.
Right.
Now we're seeing these events taking place. And so what I'd like to first talk about is these people, where do they get their theology and their understanding from? For Muslims, radical Muslims, that nobody likes to, nobody likes to say a radical Muslim, but there is such a thing as a radical Muslim, or Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see is within their own hadith, their own oral, what you might call their oral understanding of this, their oral Torah, as we might call it, as we have an oral Torah, is that in their hadith, in their books, they have written that the last hour won't come before the Muslims would fight the Jews. And the Muslims will kill them, so Jews would hide behind rocks. But not just the Jews and the Christians both. So we also see that there is a charter of Hamas in Israel, that their war is with Israel, and they want to wipe Israel from the face of the earth. Not necessarily the land, but the people, of course. Who are called Jews. And that's what we are seeing. What we are seeing now is the antis turned up. Many years ago, I spoke about that, and I said that there will come a time that the youth will be asked to take up jihad, to go fight.
Yes.
And I said, time will tell how many youth take up. And so what I was telling the people at the time, that many will take up the mantle to fight. So we see people from Britain going across to Syria. We see people from France, Belgium, Denmark, all the European countries, all the Muslims that are here. I'm not saying that all the Muslims are radical, but there is a radical element in this country, even in Great Britain. Mm-hmm. And there was a radical element here 10 years ago, maybe not as aggressive as ISIS today, who go out and behead people. So I think what's important to understand that not only the Jewish scriptures, the Bible, Hebrew Bible speaks about it, but also we see this in the New Testament, which also is Hebrew scriptures. But let's just say for a second that they are Christian scriptures for argument's sake.
Right.
We see that in Rabbi Yeshua of Nazareth, in one place in the book of Matthew, in chapters 24, his disciples come to him on the Mount of Olives and they ask him, what's going on? What will happen? And he says that the temple will be destroyed. Mm-hmm. And he then tells them that you will be persecuted in all the nations, and people will hate you, people will kill you. For the sake that you do what? I mean, they were not Christians. You know, most people think he's speaking to Christians. These were Jews. They were ethnic Jews. They believed in the Torah, and so they were going to be hated for their belief. Now, of course, many people relate that today to Christianity. But Christianity is, you know, you could kind of say, okay, fine, you know, we don't argue with syntax.
Yeah.
But those people followed the Torah. The temple was their central place of worship.
Mm-hmm.
Temple was destroyed. Today we now see that anybody that holds to the God of Israel and attests to the God of Israel, they are hated. Whether they are Jews, whether they are Christians. So we, you know, as a people of the book, we must, you know, give the people guidance. We must give them the Torah, we must give them the light so that they can have direction in their lives and know what does God desire, what is God doing in our lives. So this is why what's happening in France, in Great Britain, you know, the services in Great Britain, the secret services have already issued, I think a couple of years back, there was some news out that we're going to be fighting this war for a very long time.
Right. Okay.
Generation to come, basically.
Yes, really.
So these things tie up with the Hebrew Bible, where we see Ezekiel 38 speaks about Armageddon, you know, of the great war. We see, you know, a war with Iran, you know, coming up, Persian war. Jeremiah speaks about that in 49 chapter. So these things are not isolated events. They're not fluke events that they just happened. You know, these things the Hebrew Bible speaks about, and of course then we find the references to those prophecies in the Christian scriptures that Christians read today, the New Testament.
Okay.
So that's basically where we are coming. And of course, you know, you guys live over here and you know, see the atmosphere around yourselves. So, what are your views around this situation?
Well, we over here in England, we understand. We read the Tanakh, so you know, we obviously we know the prophecies and we can see the prophecies unfolding, which is why we have turned back to the Torah, and which is why we now have come to the understanding that obviously we're ethnic Jews and we must bring as many people back to the Torah.
Right.
You know, Christians as well as Jews. You know, whoever's interested, basically, to bring them back to the God of Israel.
Right.
And that's where we'll have protection.
Right.
So for us now, we are obviously starting to gather as many people as we can to bring them back to the truth, to teach them to learn about Torah, that Torah is the only way and Torah is the truth.
Right.
And the God of Israel is the one who protects.
Absolutely. You know, I can't disagree with that in any particular way. I agree with that 100%. But at the same time, there are a lot of people out there, our viewers and our listeners, who, you know, who have been given maybe a lot of traditions in their lives.
Yes.
And, you know, just as you and me were coming down the road today, you know, we saw that tradition in effect, you know, somebody carrying a Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we said, you know, these people are probably not church-going evangelical Christians, but it's a tradition in England to put a Christmas tree up during this time because that's what Christians are, you know, believe.
Being taught to do.
Or taught to do. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are your feelings around, you know, traditions and hard truths?
Well, for us who have returned back to the Torah, I mean, we see Christmas in Jeremiah, where, you know, Heavenly Father speaks about Christmas, you know, it's a thing of no value. The tree is a thing of no value.
Right.
So for us, that was instantly saying that the Father doesn't want us to keep Christmas.
Right.
You know, so we stopped it instantly. But for a lot of people, that tradition holds fast to them.
Right. So basically, as a Jewish believer, you're never going to hold to Christmas as a festival. Yeah. But, you know, of course, there's Hanukkah around the corner as well on almost the same date, December 25. So for us, you know, we have the Hanukkah, but it's not a replacement for Christmas. So what we are really saying is that what's going on around us, well, let's look at those events because, you know, we have, for instance, the book of Revelation, which speaks about in Revelation 13, which speaks about the beast rising up out of the sea. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to speak about that we, at the same time, have the Hebrew Bible. We have Daniel chapter 7. And Daniel chapter 7, you know, apart from Ezekiel 38, we also have that Daniel speaks about, not just one beast, speaks about 4 beasts
Right.
that will rise up. In fact, I'd say Daniel chapter 7 speaks about 4 beasts in the night vision, and he says that they will be dreadful, terrible, strong, exceedingly great, and he says that he then refers to the last beast, which I fully believe the last beast is a radical Islam that has risen up in the Middle East. It doesn't matter who funds the beast, it doesn't matter who gives it money or feeds it, but what's important is that we have Hebrew Bible prophecy that says this beast will rise up and this beast will tear apart.
Yes.
We have not seen, and let's be frank and let's be honest, we have not seen radical Muslims build an empire with beautiful buildings and super technology, scientific technology, robotic systems.
Yes.
We haven't seen that. So therefore, Daniel's prophecies, Daniel chapter 7 tells us that this beast will be devouring. It will break in pieces.
Yes.
Means it's a destroying enemy or a destroying people that don't care for life. Unfortunately, what we have seen on our TV screens is blatant in front of us that radical Muslims chop people's heads off.
Yes.
Revelation chapters 20 verse 4 speaks about beheading of people, which Christians should be aware of. I hope they read their Bibles. And we know from the Tanakh that it tells us that these people, brother will be against brother, they'll fight each other. So we see that in Iraq today. We see that Sunni Muslims
and
the Shiites are
yes.
killing each other,
Yes.
bombing each other.
Yes.
Even in Pakistan, they're throwing grenades in the mosques of Shias. And so ethnic minorities in Pakistan, and I go to say ethnic minorities, Christians, under the blasphemy law of Pakistan are persecuted. So not just the words of, this anointed Rabbi Yeshua of Nazareth, not only his words that are correlated, but where did he get his words from? Of course, because he was a reader of the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible.
Of course.
He read those words and he didn't just conjure them out of the air. So we have to understand that he would be just like a good Jewish little boy, who would go to synagogue and learn the Torah and get bar mitzvahs and everything. So all of that.
And he kept all of the Torah.
Right.
Yahushua, didn't he?
He kept all of the Torah.
Yes.
So based on that, how do you see yourself interfacing with Christians with all these events going on? How do you, as Jews, see yourself interfacing with them?
Well, for us, we obviously know that the Christians have some truth, and we're just going to try and coax them in as best as we can to bring them back to the Torah, to the Tanakh, because that's where real truth is. So what we're trying to do here is trying to set up a kohal, so where people can come and learn and teach. We can teach them Torah here in Hampton. So if anybody's interested, they can get in contact with us,
Right.
with our email address and our phone number, and just give us a call, and they're invited over.
So you're basically saying that you're not like the old days, because unfortunately there was a time when the Jews were persecuted in Europe, and which led up to the unfortunate Holocaust as well in Germany.
That's right.
So what you're saying is that Jews were very afraid of talking to anybody, especially Christians or other people, because they were afraid they may get persecuted for that. So what you're saying is that you're coming out of that rap. You're saying, look, what happened. God has a part in everything.
Yes.
God does things for a reason,
Yes.
good or bad. So all the bad that happened, we're not kind of like holding every Christian responsible for that.
No,
but what
no.
we are saying is that, according to you, you are opening the door and saying, look, I have the Tanakh, I have the Hebrew scriptures. I am more than happy to teach anybody who wants to learn. Now, whether they accept the message of the God of Israel it's not a political message.
No.
So that, you have to then, what does God say? One has to ask a question. What does God say? So it's going to be God according to God. If you like what God says, then you're going to get God speaking to His children, His people, and therefore everybody has a stake to come to that God who's demonstrated Himself in time and time again in the past and now in the present future. We could say a number of things regarding this nation, England.
Yes.
What their history is regarding, God and regarding the Bible. And I will go so far as to say that God calls this nation that great nation in the north. God says that. So I will go so far as to say that he says that, which means that this nation has a role to play. God doesn't say, oh, that evil nation in the north or those wicked people. See, we tend to have a very skewed view. We tend to think, well, just because they're English people, maybe they don't keep kosher laws, so therefore they must all be wicked people. That's not how God sees it.
Okay.
God desires, what I see, God desires people to come to the foreknowledge and understanding and make the right choices, but God still uses nations and leaders.
Sure. I mean, could you say that England then was it like a shepherd nation?
Yes. England is a shepherd nation, just as the United States is. A lot of people are perturbed with, our president-elect in America being Donald Trump. A lot of people are perturbed, and media is running all over the place. The leftist media making up all sorts of bad comments about the president-elect. But the reality is this, that any president of America is God-ordained. God has a say in it. So therefore, if it's President-elect Donald Trump, then I say that let God do his job. If God has brought him to power, then let the man work and demonstrate his ability. There's a lot of corruption that needs to be rooted out.
Yes.
Everything that flows out of Wall Street isn't laced with gold. So we can't take a hardline view that every leader is evil.
Yes.
Theresa May in the UK is doing the thing with Brexit, and so there's a lot of politics being played. And people are, a lot of people are nervous in England with what's going to happen with Brexit and hard Brexit, soft Brexit, what's going to happen to our jobs, our homes. There's a lot of worry, but, God has a plan for everybody.
Yes, indeed.
So I believe that God has a plan for all of us. I believe it's very important to understand the times around us, what's going on. With radical Islam, we are dealing with radical Islam, which actually wants to wipe everybody that don't agree with them.
Yeah.
So, but then we have the moderate Muslims on the other side who want to live in peace. So, we have to separate the two, apart.
Yes.
So there's, there was a lot of, unfortunately, unexcitement, or, there was a little bit dismay when President-elect Mr. Trump had a conversation with the President of Pakistan, the President Nawaz Sharif over there, and they were like all saying that he said, you're a terrific guy, you're terrific people, and so a lot of people didn't like that. Well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with Pakistanis being called terrific guys and terrific people?
Exactly.
Just like he spoke with the president of Taiwan, which was seen as an offense by China. I think China needs to grow up. Taiwan is a nation on its own. China or no China. China is not the only country in the world. So I think we have to look at perspective.
Yes.
And the Bible tells us a lot of things about different nations. England, America, kings of the ends of the earth, which America is a great nation. And then we have England as a great nation. So we got to understand that we can't single nations out and say, oh, well, that nation is no good, or those people are no good, and they're no good because they do that. So, we as Jews, we take a very broad view. We're not narrow-minded people.
That's right.
We take a very broad view. We believe that God has a hand in all the affairs of the world. So looking at ISIS, ISIS doing what ISIS is doing, ISIS, as I said, I was writing about these events 10 years ago, where I said a radical group will arise in the Middle East that will threaten directly Saudi Arabia. And that is happening today.
That's right.
Because they want to overthrow Saudi Arabia, they want to take over the oil, and they want to set up a caliphate, which they tried in Iraq already. So this is what we are facing. And a lot of Christians, unfortunately, for me, it's kind of sad, because I didn't write it to frighten people at the time, but I did write and I did speak privately to my Christian friends saying, look, you're going to come under a lot of problems with radical Islam.
Yeah.
You need to be out of these places. You don't want to be in a place where they're going to persecute you, they're going to kill you, and they will do that. And I saw that, in front of me, and they didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
Because I think sometimes Christians read the Bible with hidden lenses. They just don't see what's there.
Of course.
So I said that this is going to happen to them. People are going to kill you. They're going to for your faith and whatever. So I said you need to be out of here as soon as you can. And today, in 2016, we learned that in Iraq, many Christians were put down, were killed, many driven out of their homes. And we have those issues going on.
So, I mean, can you tell us anything about what's happening with the migration from Syria and Iraq at the moment coming over to Europe? I mean, is that got to do with prophecies?
Yes, it is, because people say that the liberal media will tell you that this is a policy, the war policy driven by the governments of the country, Western countries, Western nations, is detrimental because it's creating this war. They're creating this war, they're creating these problems, and they're driving the people to the Western forefronts. And so it's a problem created by the West, technically, by a lot of the liberal media people who speak, or even the right-wing media might say similar things as well. So I say that the Bible speaks about the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, the prophet Isaiah, in his time, in his day, we're talking about 2,700 years ago, he wrote about an event that will occur in Syria, which he called the destruction of Damascus. So how are we going to get a destruction of Damascus if we're not going to see preceding a war build up?
Yeah.
So what I feel that what's happening right now is we are heading towards that destruction of Damascus.
Right, so that's prophecy being fulfilled as we speak.
Prophecy being fulfilled as we speak, that just as God said there will be a destruction of Damascus, today we can see the war over there. Well, the destruction, partly there's destruction there now, but there's going to be a bigger destruction to come in the Middle East. So we are going to get involved in that, whether we like it or whether we don't like it.
Right.
So our responsibility as a people of the book is to pray for all the people around us, pray for God to give mercy and favor to the people and protection, so that innocent people are not killed. And unfortunately, war is a dirty game. Innocent people often die. So that's my feeling, is that it's very relevant that we look at our Hebrew Bible and we act on what the Bible says. As I just spoke about Daniel chapter 7, where verse 19 speaks about that, it says that the fourth beast, it says which was diverse from all the other beasts. It wasn't like the Persian Empire. It wasn't like the Babylonian Empire, and it wasn't like the Assyrian Empire. So it says it's diverse. It says it has teeth of iron. Well, a lot of prophecy scholars in Christianity, they place that as Rome. I disagree with that.
Right.
Because it wasn't Rome, because Rome doesn't destroy. Rome doesn't just destroy it. Rome actually built it. Rome conquered somebody and said, okay, you're not tributaries to us. You pay us tax. And so they installed a governor, as we saw happening in Yeshua's time.
That's right, yeah.
Pontius Pilate was the governor, right?
Yes.
So we saw that. So therefore they would build.
Yes.
So this fourth beast only fits one, unfortunately, one religion today that produces and spawns radical Islam. Muslims who want to conquer other people, kill other people for whatever gain or whatever spirituality, because they feel they're going to go to heaven for that. Or they're going to convert all these people. Unfortunately, this is what we see. And truth is often hard. If you speak to most Muslims, they won't accept it, but reality is that this is the truth.
That's right.
Can't hide from the truth. So my question to you then, Rabbi Jeremiah, is how do you see your role over here in London, with the people around there, all these things going on with Brexit and, President-elect Mr. Trump on the horizon, and then you have this war in the Middle East. How do you see your role right at this moment?
Well, our role is basically just to enlighten as many people as we can about these events that are taking place through the Torah and through the Tanakh,
right?
And to bring them back to the truth. Anybody who wants to learn are welcome to join us and to study Torah with us, so that they can understand what's coming for the future.
Right. So are you saying that you're open to your message is open to all nations?
It's open to all nations,
ethnicities,
all people, all ethnicities. Anybody who wants to learn and study.
What about the fact that most people traditionally associate Jews with just the Caucasian race? They think Jews are just Ashkenazi, Caucasian, and you're not Ashkenazi, not Ashkenazi. So how does that correlate?
Well, this is one of those myths we have to break. We have to put lay it to rest, as we say. The original Jews were indeed people of color.
Right.
So I think it's time now that the world understood this, and we bring this understanding forward.
Right.
So,
Okay.
with that, we'd like to say thank you very much to Hakohin.
Okay, so we have reached the end of the program, and I'd like to thank the listeners and the viewers for watching. So until next time, I'd like to thank you, Rabbi Jeremiah, for being here. And if you have anything to say, by all means.
I'd just like to say thank you, Hakohin, for taking the time coming over from America to...
So we say shalom, shalom till next time.
Thank you. Shalom, shalom.